Why Alaska? There's Moody Bible Institute up in Chicago. There's Calvary Bible College over in Kansas City. There's even St. Louis Christian College, Brooks Bible Institute. Why Alaska? Well, there is a real reason and strategic value for our ministry in Alaska, and a real reason why we need you behind us, supporting us in this work through prayer. So that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit more this morning. Here you see a map of the state of Alaska. And this is not a traditional political map. This is a map of the different historical tribal boundaries within the state of Alaska. There are about 9 different, depending on how you divide them up, different tribal people groups living in Alaska, even still today. The blue areas are what we would call the Inuit or Eskimo peoples. The reddish areas are the Athabascan Indian peoples, and then along the coast we have the different Tlingit tribes and Tsimshian and Eyak tribes. But all of these people together make up the state of Alaska historically. This is what Alaska kind of might have looked like politically before the Russians colonized the state and then sold it to the United States. This is why we're serving in Alaska, because there are these distinct entities of people in the state. And we know in Matthew 28:19, of course, Jesus gave us the commandment, right? Go and make disciples. Where? Of all nations. Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the age. So Jesus said, in this time period where we are living now, after he left, up until the end of the age when he will return, he gave us this command to go out and disciple all nations. And that is why we are here today. That is why the church exists today. That's why he left his disciples behind to make disciples who made disciples. And we are recipients of that command as well today, to continue making disciples until the end of the age. Jesus returns and his kingdom comes again. So that is the real reason that you have us there in Alaska. In 1936, a young graduate of Moody Bible Institute in Chicago took that command seriously. Vincent James Joy, he was a pioneer missionary to the Atna people in central Alaska. He brought his wife, Becky, his little boy, Jimmy, and a nurse named Lillian Scott. They got into a little bush plane in the port town of Valdez. Bush pilot named Harold Gilliam flew them into this Copper River Valley, it's called, where the Atna people lived. This was an area in 1936, less than 100 years ago, that there were still no roads. There had been some Russian Orthodox who made their way in years past, but they had fizzled out. There had been some copper mining going on, but really no exposure to the outside world as late as 1936, when Vince Joy and his family flew in and landed in the valley there and began ministry. Vince Joy had success serving there in the Copper River Valley. Vince Joy had success. Here you see the first church he was able to plant among the Atna people, built in the true traditional Alaska log cabin style, right? And you can still see this building up on the hill in Copper Center, close to where we lived when we first got to Alaska. This was the original log church built by Vince Joy as he served there among the Atna people in central Alaska. This church still exists today, still is predominantly attended by Atna Indian people. Vince embedded himself in the culture, learned the culture, endeared himself to the people, and had a few tough years at first, but eventually was able to plant this church, as well as 9 others in the region there. The valley is about the size of the state of Ohio, and across that region, he was able to establish this church and 8 other churches in the region there among the Atna people. He founded a mission to outreach to them named Central Alaska Missions. That mission still exists today. It's now called Send North, part of Send International, major international mission organization you may be familiar with. He founded, along with that, he founded a hospital to provide for the physical health care needs of the people in the valley. And he founded a radio station that began broadcasting the Word of God on a daily basis. So, Vince Joy found success in his ministry there, started in the 1930s among the Atna people. Vince Joy's contemporaries, other missionaries serving in other areas of the state, had similar success. And by about the 1970s, people could confidently say that every village in the state of Alaska had received the gospel, and churches had been planted all across the state. Here is a map of kind of how the different denominations split up the state of Alaska and said, okay, we'll go work in this area, we'll work in the north, you work in the south, and together we'll work together to get the gospel out to the state. And so that plan was laid in the 1890s, and Vince Joy came to the Atna region. In 1890, nobody had even gotten in there yet, but by the 1930s, Vince Joy was able to access that area, and by the 1970s, the task of evangelizing the state of Alaska was complete. We don't need any more evangelism, church planting type ministry in the state of Alaska. So, why are we still there? Why send a family from Hope Church? I said in the 1936, a young graduate of Moody Bible Institute packed up his family. Well, in 2012, another young graduate of Moody Bible Institute packed up his family and pulled out of St. Louis, Missouri, and made the trek. Not by airplane this time, but we ended up in the exact same valley where Vince Joy was serving in 1936. We attended that same church that I showed you. The task remains. Why? Well, here's a picture of that chapel, that church. The inside, a church service. This picture was taken, about 3 years ago. We were there when it was taken. This is the church planted by Vince Joy, predominantly attended by Atna Indian people, the people of the area who have been tied to this land for thousands of years, long before we came. And they have their church, and they get together in fellowship over the word on a weekly basis. But the task remains. What's wrong with this picture? Look at the pastor. Look at the pastor. He's a missionary pastor, still serving in the same church that Vince Joy planted as a missionary in the 1930s. Still a white missionary pastor sent up from the state of Illinois, he and his family. Faithful servant, wonderful man, good friend of mine, Cleve Mugford. But is that God's design for the church? When Jesus said, go and make disciples, he wasn't saying just go and bring people into the church and make believers, make converts. He said go and make disciples. A disciple is someone who has been trained. Remember, he said, do what? Baptize them. That involves the conversion to faith in Jesus, but that's just the first step, the baptism. He said, go and make disciples, baptizing them, but also, Matthew 28:19, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. Making disciples involves training others to take the reins of leadership and to then go and train others who will train others who will train others. And that last step of Jesus' command still remains, because pastors like Pastor Cleve are still responsible for most of these little village churches that have been started over the last 100 years in the state of Alaska. We have not yet trained indigenous believers to lead their own people in worship in culturally relevant and appropriate ways that expresses who they are as a people coming together to honor Christ our King. And that is why over 70 years after Vince Joy went to Alaska in the 1930s, we are still sending people because there's one step left: making disciples. So, in 2014, leaders from 5 major missions working in Alaska got together in a summit on Lazy Mountain, and I was there when these leaders got together, along with other representatives from other missions. And as we talked about, is the Great Commission done yet? The conclusion was no. Every single mission organization was in agreement. We haven't trained leaders yet. We've made converts, but we haven't trained leaders. And that is why we're serving at Alaska Bible College today. Vince Joy saw the need for a school like Alaska Bible College as early as the 1960s. He had planted these churches. He had established these 9 churches in this region, the size of the state of Ohio. And he saw the other churches that had been planted in the other pockets of the state. And he realized, if we want to finish this job, we're going to need to start training Alaskans to reach Alaska. So, in 1966, he secured land from the Bureau of Land Management. They gave a land grant of 80 acres to Central Alaska Mission for the purpose of establishing a Bible college there, near that church that he originally started. And construction began. He began building the college, recruited faculty to come up and teach. And in 1966, the college opened its doors, September of 1966. 50 years ago, if you're counting, by the way. This year is Alaska Bible College's 50th anniversary. So the college has been operating in the state for 50 years. Vince Joy died tragically in a bulldozer accident in August, the month before the college opened. But we continue in his legacy, carrying on this vision of training the people to serve their own people, raising up indigenous leaders to serve the state of Alaska. So, the college opened its doors in September of 1966. Well, that still was about 50 years ago. Still 50 years ago. Why? Why are we still sending people to Alaska as missionaries, even to Alaska Bible College? What has the college accomplished? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the challenges that we've encountered in the state of Alaska. Challenges to this command to go and make disciples. Alaska is a difficult place. A difficult place, not because of the environment. That does make things difficult, but people can deal with that. It's a difficult place because of the spiritual oppression and dysfunction that we see throughout the state. Challenges to discipleship in Alaska. What are some of the injustices that we see in the state of Alaska? Well, here are some basic statistics. Rape cases per 100,000 people. In the U.S., on average, we'll have about 27 reported cases of rape per 100,000 people in the United States. In Alaska, that goes all the way up to 79, 3 times greater incidences of rape cases per 100,000 people in the state of Alaska. Here's another example of the things we face as we try to make disciples. 59% of Alaska women have experienced intimate partner violence or sexual assault during their lifetime. 59% of Alaskan women. Suicide rate per 100,000 people. The U.S. average, 11.5. About 11.5 people on average will commit suicide out of every 100,000. Among the Alaska Native people who were trying to serve and make disciples, that suicide rate climbs to 35 people per 100,000. That's over 3 times higher the national average. And these are just little snippets. I could throw all sorts of statistics out there to illustrate the challenges we face as we go and try to make disciples, to train leaders among this context. The anecdotal sexual abuse rate in some of these Alaskan villages is 100%. As you talk to people, you realize that the system is failing these people. The culture has been devastated by a few factors over the last 200 years as Alaska has been colonized. As the Europeans came into the state, they brought a few things, but most notable thing was disease. The natural immunity of the Alaskan people was not ready for the things like the Spanish flu and all this. And these epidemics in the 1920s, 1930s devastated entire villages where everybody died. And maybe a few little kids would be left and they'd be shipped off to live in an orphanage. So during that time, the entire culture lost its leadership and is reeling and wondering what to do. And the researchers have made the case that the Alaska Native culture as a whole suffers from what we would call today post-traumatic stress disorder because of what's happened. So the villages were devastated, and another thing that was brought was alcohol. And what do you turn to when you've lost all hope? Well, far too many people in our world today don't turn to the hope of Jesus Christ, may not even have heard about it, but turn to the hope of the bottle, drowning out your sorrows for a night. And that's where the rest of all this stuff comes from. The people of Alaska are in bondage, spiritual bondage. Alcohol is a huge influence everywhere you go in the state, and that's what leads to these 100% sexual abuse in some villages. Just everybody's experienced it, and it's the way of life. I had a student in one of my classes sharing how, as kids, we kind of joked about it, and that's just the way it was because everybody had experienced that. And that's the brokenness that we face as we come with this task to make disciples. And that's why the task is still ongoing today, because of the challenges that we are trying to overcome. It is very, very difficult for a young believer to rise above this stuff, step forward and say, yes, I want to be trained to minister to my own people with the gospel. More often than not, all they want to do is escape. And those who do step forward and desire to do something about it are often kind of put back in your, get back in your place. Who are you to say you're any different than the rest of us? And it's very oftentimes looked down upon when someone in one of these villages does something that goes against the grain. So we're working against these challenges as we try to make disciples in the state of Alaska. The need is still immense. Churches across the state led by either no one at all, an empty building that, they hope a missionary pilot might fly in once in a while, or by a missionary pastor like Pastor Cleve I showed you. And that's why the college is still serving these 50 years later, making disciples. So, in the face of those social challenges that we face, there are also real political challenges. If you read the news, you know that all the nations of the world are looking north as the North Pole thaws, and you can get in and start drilling for oil. And how many different nations have now laid claim to the North Pole, saying, we own the North Pole. Russia went in, sent a submarine, planted a flag on the ocean floor. If you pay attention to the news, this is a big thing. China isn't even an Arctic country, but they've gained permanent observer status on the Arctic Council. They're building icebreakers. Why is China building icebreakers? Well, because they have economic and political interests in what's going on up north. They're hoping, how are we going to fuel this new superpower? Well, they're looking to their resources that are buried on the ocean floor, and Alaska is right in the middle of it. The Arctic is thawing. They're opening up shipping lanes. They're now able to save so much time through sending a ship through the Suez Canal to get from Europe to Asia. Just send it across the Arctic and you can shave days off the journey, thousands of dollars in fuel costs by shipping through the Arctic. So everybody's looking north to get a little piece of this economic pie. And these dear people who have called this place home for thousands of years are caught in the balance. That's the challenge in front of us as we stand there and say, we need to make disciples. We need to train people to lead themselves, to have a godly, committed voice in the local church that can provide a forum through working through all these difficult issues. This is just a massive economic grinder that has the potential to really continue the devastation that these people have faced over the years. An investment in Alaska, the investment that Alaska Bible College is making, is a strategic one that needs to be made now as the world is looking north. So, where is Alaska Bible College in the midst of this? Well, ABC remains true to its original vision. Here you see Miss Rose Tyone, the first graduate of the Bible College, 1970. She graduated with her Bachelor of Arts degree. Atna Indian lady, graduated from the college, served for many years as a missionary to indigenous people in the United States, and is now retired, living again among her own people as a respected elder. Alaska Bible College continues to produce graduates like Miss Tyone Charlie. The college gained accreditation in 1985, nationally recognized as a legitimate degree-granting school. All the federal aid applies, which facilitates students in Alaska to come and receive funding for the college. Their credits are recognized at other colleges if they choose to transfer on. Since 1966, ABC has produced 375 graduates to date. We just added to this number. Last month, beginning of May, it was 369, and 6 more graduated last May, 375 now. We keep adding that number of people being sent forth into ministry roles in the state. The college is not sitting still. We're moving. We're adjusting with the times. We were in that remote corner of the state, the area called Glen Allen, where I showed you that log cabin church, for about 47 years was where the college operated. Well, 3 years ago, we realized that was no longer the best place to run a college in Alaska. So we moved the college to the town of Palmer. That was the first big project that Katie and I were involved with as the college. We were recruited to come up and help beat some of the young, energetic blood to champion this move, because many of the former generation of faculty members were getting ready to retire. And so this move happened 3 years ago, was a huge deal for the school, but we worked through it. And since moving to Palmer, we've seen the student body begin to grow again. We've shaved cost off the budget, and we've been able to reach out. And an interesting thing has happened in that the percentage of Alaskan students has now skyrocketed, of Alaskan students coming to Alaska Bible College. It's now about 60% Alaskan students and 30% students from outside Alaska down here, saying, hey, Alaska, I'll go to Alaska. Well, before it was the other way around. When we were in Glen Allen, people would look at that remote community and say, oh, I don't want to go out there. They knew what they were getting into, the Alaskans. And they said, hey, I'm going to go down to Moody Bible Institute or something like that before I go to Glen Allen. Well, now that we're in Palmer, we've become so much more relevant to the state of Alaska. We've been able to recruit more Alaskan students and partner with local Alaskan ministries. The other big project that we've been able to help tackle was the development of a new training program specifically focused on the Alaska Native people. Like I said, Over the years, it's been so hard to reach out to these villages because of the brokenness that we find, because of the despair, the lack of hope. Many times those students who do come to the college from the native villages will end up kind of fizzling out because they bring so much baggage with them that we have limited success in helping them navigate through those difficult waters of transitioning to college life and learning to be successful academically. Probably about 20% of our students enrolled at the college come from an Alaska Native background. The other 80% come from other backgrounds, whether it's Caucasian, African American, Hispanic, but about 20% come from the Alaska Native background. So we said, how are we going to reach out more to those from these Alaska Native background? What are the issues they're coming to the college with facing? And we were able to, in 2014, launch this new program called Lead Alaska. This is a 6-month intensive residential discipleship program that's focused on the Alaska Native communities. And those students who are interested in being discipled in the Word of God, but maybe are not quite ready, or maybe simply not interested in the whole academic experience, earning grades and all of that. This is a program designed to be a stepping stone towards college for those who want that, or simply a real practical life-on-life residential discipleship opportunity. Come participate at Alaska Bible College for 6 months through the Lead Alaska program, and then go back as a more fully developed, mature believer to go back to your home and maybe not become a career pastor, but to live as a mature Christian person, as an influence and a light in the community. So this is an exciting new program that we've been able to launch in the last few years after moving to Palmer. Here's the graduation ceremony, and this is not just a ministry of ABC. Alaska Bible College was able to partner with 5 other ministries in the state, 5 other missions, all who want to see disciples made among the native people. And we got together and said, what can we all bring to the table? And through that, we were able to partner with a counseling organization that provides mental and spiritual help in working through a lot of this baggage of trauma and abuse in people's past. That was something the college always failed at until we came together as a partnership with these 5 other organizations. And now we're seeing some of these native believers really stepping forward and excited to be equipped for ministry among their people. So, we have, to close out here, a video about this Lead Alaska program. We'll show the video, and then I'll come up after the video and let you know just a few real practical ways you can be involved and help us complete this Great Commission in Alaska.
We need to start somehow working together to meet the need of young people out there so that they have hope, so that they have freedom from the attack of the enemy of their souls. Lead Alaska is a unique ministry because it pulls together different missions and different ministries in Alaska to work together and to meet the need that's out there.
Seems to me the most important ministry that's needed right now in Alaska is discipleship development, helping people learn how to live the Christian life on an everyday basis in their communities. So in my exposure to village churches, I see the need for strong, mature lay leaders. A lot of our churches depend on lay leaders. It would really benefit our own churches if a program like Lead Alaska could help our people grow in Christian maturity and to be able to go back to their villages as stronger disciples that know how to make disciples.
trying to do here is not to reinvent the wheel. What's really necessary here is for the partnership that's coming together from different ministries, everybody bringing their own area of expertise. And we're excited to be a part of something more holistic that might be able to help us meet those emotional needs, the one-on-one discipleship that is really necessary to really make disciples.
I think probably one of the biggest advantages of a program like LEAD is its informality. It's non-threatening, and it's basically in the context of friendship, relationship. There's intentionality built in, but it's a chance to share life with people. Somebody who's further down the road in being a Christ follower, somebody who cares for them, come alongside, put their arm around them, show them what it's like, not just tell them what it's like.
Strong biblical discipleship is the key component. There's also really a holistic approach, which means the whole person approach, which is a little bit different than some of the other training programs in the past. There's also a practical side to Lead Alaska, just learning some of the life skills, some coaching, some mentoring. It might be very practical things. Paul was a tent maker, and so he did some very practical things just to do what the ministry that he was involved in.
Lead Alaska is providing an opportunity for all these organizations to come together for the future of Alaska. Think of the young people out there that are just coming up and need a program like this.
One of the most pressing needs of Native believers in Alaska is to see themselves functioning well in their homes, with their families, individually. It's more than just giving them Bible knowledge, but it's helping them see that they can face some of the issues that have happened in their past to help them work toward healing.
Interact Ministries has a beautiful campus here with a number of buildings on it. We have, I believe, 140 acres. There is incredible potential here, not only for starting a program such as Lead Alaska and starting small, but we have the space, we have the location, and together we have the collective resources to expand this program and grow it over a number of years.
I throw a pebble into a pond, it hits one spot, and there's one ripple. But the neat thing about that one ripple is it keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. And it's kind of the way I see Lead Alaska, a small gathering of people discipled to be Christ followers, but the ripples just keep growing, getting larger and larger, doing really what Christ did with a handful of disciples. Started small, but the impact ended up going around the world.
We can grow people up, we can disciple them to be leaders wherever they want to go, wherever the Lord leads them in their lives, and bring life skills with them at the same time.
Jesus did not say, go and make converts. Jesus said, go and make disciples.
So that gives you a little picture of the partnership aspect of the Lead Alaska ministry. And the exciting thing about this is that we're no longer trying to go it alone. We've said, hey, there are some ways we can work together. The exciting thing is, if you look at who is in this group, you've got 3 students in front who are being prayed for. But look at who is behind these 3 students. All of these people are not Caucasian missionaries who were sent to Alaska from outside. These are all the previous generation of Native believers who we've been able to come alongside and help them figure out how can we train our own people. Where are the white people in this picture? Well, there's my hand sticking in here. And there's a missionary couple off on this side of the screen as well. But in the middle, it's the native people being equipped to disciple their own native people. And this is a picture of the job truly being accomplished that Jesus left us with. This is what we want to see happen all over the world, everywhere. But Alaska is a unique opportunity in that this is one pocket of our own nation where this Great Commission has not been completely finished yet, because the churches need disciples. So, we invite you to partner with us. The fields are white unto harvest. Will you partner with us in this Great Commission that Jesus has given us? How can you do this? Well, the classic missionary challenge, there are 3 ways. You can pray. You can pray. Alaska is a spiritual dark place. We face real spiritual warfare on a consistent basis in our own family. Not just the emotional, the wintertime blues, but real spiritual oppression from the enemy. He does not want to see this job done. And we have faced challenges as a result of spiritual attack on our family. And I beg you guys to pray for us. Uphold us before the throne of grace, because we know we have authority in the name of Jesus against these forces. But the enemy has had his stranglehold on Alaska for thousands of years of shamanism, spirit worship, and demonic oppression. And he's working against us. So please pray. Secondly, give. There are 2 big projects going on at Alaska Bible College right now. We are trying to build the new roof. Our roof is leaking, and we're trying to raise $200,000 to put a new roof on the facility to protect us and keep it a good, healthy environment for students. No distractions. It's hard when you're sitting in class and there's a drip, 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 drip. We're trying to put a new roof on the building. And the other big thing you could give towards, if the Lord lays it on your heart, and many people, this is the role that God gives them in the Great Commission, is not to go on the front lines, but to stay embedded in their community and support the work that's going on. So you could give to the Lead Alaska program. These students need scholarships to be able to attend this 6-month residential training program. And you could help fund a student through the Lead Alaska program with your money. It costs about $6,000 for a student to attend the program for 6 months. And that's just the housing costs and the food costs and transportation costs and things like that. So you could give to the roof, or you could give to Lead Alaska to fund a scholarship. But lastly, and what I really hope you guys consider, is go. Pray, give, go. Any one of you could have a hand in completing the Great Commission in Alaska. We can use unskilled laborers. We can put you to work during the summer doing something around campus. We can use skilled, if you have a skill, God can use it for his work in Alaska. Whether it's business skill, whether it's engineering, whether it's healthcare, whether it's financial skill, whatever you know how to do, I can put you in touch with someone in Alaska who can use you. Maybe not at the Bible college where I work, but we can plug you in somewhere to use that skill, not even on a career basis, but come. We depend on volunteers who come for a week or 2 and just contribute what they can when they can. So I challenge you to go, whether you have a skill or not. God can put you to work for his Great Commission somewhere in Alaska, and I'll put you in touch with someone who can use you, whether it's at ABC, at Kingdom Air Corps down the road, or one of these other missions serving. There's opportunities. And perhaps some will even consider a career of missionary service in Alaska, or a second career for those who are retiring and looking and wondering, what am I going to do next? God can use all of us together to finish what he wants to see happen in the state.